Welcome to the Mentor Podcast, where the most highly motivated entrepreneurs come to get their weekly dose of financial stability with host Ron LeGrand, as well as other nationally recognized thought leaders who will teach you how to get, grow, and protect your wealth.
Well, hello, everybody. Ron here. Another episode of the Mentor Podcast is on its way. And we have a rather unusual session today because I'm going to interview somebody I've known for a long, long time, and his name is Ron LeGrand. Yep, that would be me. Actually, Debbie Waters is going to be interviewing me. She's going to be asking me some questions. And the subject today is what happens if we have another recession, and how does that apply to you? So, hello, Debbie.
Hi, Ron.
I understand you got a list of questions for me, and I'll do my best to answer them. And if I don't know the answer, I'll just make something up anyway. So go ahead and fire away.
I do. We get a lot of questions. A lot of times they come in on Gold Club. So I've just pulled a little list here. So the first question is, what happens if we have another recession?
Well, the answer is, I think it depends. And depends largely on where you at and how you set yourself up and how you're able to handle it. I think first I probably ought to describe what a recession is. I sure know what it was in 2008 because it, boy, hit me right between the eyes and cost me a whole lot of money. It really, what causes it, I can't answer that. Not sure that anybody can. But what happens is that we have a downturn in asset values. Real estate starts plummeting. Other assets start plummeting, which creates chaos in the marketplace, creates fear. People stop spending, which always creates nasty, bad things. And next thing you know, we're in a tailspin. The stock market usually follows it, if not precedes it. So there's not really a whole lot we can do to prevent a recession. So the only thing we can do is to make sure we don't have one in our house. So I can go through a few things that I think one should do to make sure that that doesn't happen to them. And the first one, I believe, is that I would take a look at all the personally guaranteed debt that you have and see how much of it you could work on getting rid of as fast as you possibly can. Because when you have personally guaranteed debt, especially on mortgages on properties, you become a slave to the bank. And when the value goes down, that's when you get yourself in a pickle because the values have dropped. You might want to wind up owing more on the property than it's worth, like we had so much of in 2009. I mean, literally, there was a time there when 40% of the properties in this country were over-leveraged. And it's catching back up now. We're getting that value back. It still hasn't returned. 10 years later, it still does not return to where it was in 2006, 2007, but it's coming back. So a lot of people are afraid, well, when's it going to happen next? You hear all the stuff on the talking heads on the television, but honestly, I don't know. So the first thing I would do is work on getting rid of your personally guaranteed debt. Now, if I have properties, which I do incidentally, that I'm thinking about liquidating in the not too distant future. In my opinion, I think now would be a good time to do that. The market is good now, and it's usually not tough to sell a house if it's ready to sell. So personally, I'm literally renovating two houses that I've had for well over 10 years now, and I am going to cash them out, list them with a realtor, and let them cash them out because I really do believe we're at the top of the market right now. And if we're not, we're very close. So actually, I accomplished a couple of things. Liquidate the houses, put some cash in the bank, and it would be long-term capital gains. And that's assuming that I don't 1031 exchange the houses. In my case, though, I don't have any personally guaranteed debt on these houses. But if I did, it would also wipe that out at the same time. As you know, we at Global here spend our entire lives teaching people how to buy all the houses they want without personally guaranteeing debt. So in the case of a recession, the worst can happen is you lose the asset that you got for free. So I guess the moral of the story is if you put yourself in a position to where the only thing you can lose is that asset you got for free, and then banks aren't going to be chasing you because you don't guarantee debt. I mean, the worst thing that happen is you lose those assets. But the good news, and when a recession happens, and with real estate, the rents don't go down. Rents stay right up there. In fact, sometimes they even increase because the demand gets bigger than the supply. So if one is not personally guaranteed on debt, and especially if one has not structured their business so that they have to cash out now, like I'm in the rehabbing, retailing, cash out now business. And then all I do is sit there and wait it out. If I don't have to sell now and times get tough, I simply won't sell now. I'll sit there and wait. And frankly, that might be the best thing that happened to me because values might be down now, but they're going to come back up. But at the very least, the debt's going to get paid down in the process. So a recession very well might force me to wind up making more money on the property. Plus, we get that monthly cash flow as well. So if I'm getting rid of as much personally guaranteed debt as I can, and I start buying properties using non-recourse debt, like taking over subject to and or buying with owner financing, but not guaranteeing the debt, then I'm setting myself up in a position to where I'm actually recession proof because people are always going to need a place to live. I don't care what the times are, what the interest rates are, whether we're up market, down market, or whatever. People always have to have a place to live. Now, I've been through 5 cycles, with 2008 being the worst, but there's never been a time where people didn't need to sell houses and other people didn't need to buy them. So, am I answering the right question here, or am I just rambling?
Yes, I think you did. You actually have covered several of them. But Ron, you are a great story for recovering from a financial crisis. So, can you tell us maybe what happened to you personally in 2008 and how you recovered from that?
Well, in 2008, I had 32 commercial projects developments going on simultaneously with students running them. Students brought most of them in, partnered with them, and that was in 9 different states. And I had an awful lot of personally guaranteed debt out there, borrowed money, about $50 million worth to be exact, and then a jet or two sitting around, and everything was great until the crap hit the fan in September of 2008, and Lehman Brothers went down. I mean, we were literally at the point where we were starting ready to build stuff, and frankly, there were several $100 million that would have been in the profit column by now, and we'd have been out by now as well on most of the stuff that I was working. But boy, when that recession hit, it not only dried up all the capital, but it killed all the exit strategies. So when you're developing and there's nobody left to buy what you're developing, it creates somewhat of a problem. So to make a long story short, banks got all those properties back. Creditors chased me for quite a while, but fortunately, I structured my life so that they couldn't get at any of the assets that I did have, and I knew how to do that before the recession hit. So that's probably the second thing that we should discuss on how to protect yourself against a recession is making sure that if and when they do come, that they're not going to get anything, even when they know you got it.
Absolutely. So you teach that as well in your How to Structure Your Empire.
I do, and I teach some of it in my Quick Start School because people need to know it. I honestly don't even know where they're going to learn this stuff anymore. I don't even know anybody effectively teaching it. And those who do teach it, you can't even understand what they're talking about. If I put 5 attorneys in a room and I ask them all the same question, I might get 5 different answers. So, so I don't blame them. How could anybody understand what to do? So I do have a 2-day event where I'm putting that puzzle together with an attorney beside me there, and I'm the translator. I'm I'm the guy that's going to take the attorney speak and translate to plain old English. Plus, I'm a real good example of one who has learned how to protect their assets and structure their entities so that we reduce taxes as well as making sure that when you die, your stuff goes to where you want it to go. So this is all part of the process of growing. Making money is one thing. Then we got to keep it away from the IRS, and then we got to keep it away from predators and creditors. So it's all part of the learning curve. And sometimes we learn a lot harder lessons than others, like I did after 2008. So back to the point, if you're not worried about losing your stuff and you don't have personally guaranteed debt, nobody will be chasing you to begin with, so you don't have to worry about losing your stuff. But also, I think the third key here is we got to get our cash flow up. Cash flow is king. I don't care how much equity you got, it can go away in a flash. Ask me. I'll tell you, I had a lot of it in '08. I mean, it went like gone overnight. So my suggestion would be work on increasing your cash flow to many times what you need to live on. And honestly, if you get into my world and you learn how to do this real estate thing with single family houses and you do it correctly and you stay focused on it for more than 17 minutes, it won't take you long to where you actually get enough cash flow from your monthly residual income, which is the difference between what your tenant buyers are paying you and what you're paying out underneath to literally override your income from any job or our business. Now you take all of the front end non-refundable option deposits that we get on top of that, and then the back end paydays that we get, and then sometimes they move out and we get to do it again and keep that deposit that they forfeited. I mean, it doesn't take long to where one could build their cash flow, but it does mean that you got to get in it, learn the ropes, get committed, and use the systems that we created over the years so that the minutia doesn't suck up your life.
Absolutely. So the moral of the story would be increasing cash flow is king.
Increasing cash flow is always king. Plus, I'm a firm believer in multiple streams of income. I can tell you that I wouldn't be around after 2008 if I didn't have a few, because times really got tough there after that recession. I mean, literally here at Global Publishing, we had one day where we had to lay off 50% of our entire staff, and we had a pretty good sized staff. So it was not a fun day. And some really, really tough decisions were made in the years thereafter. And so cash flow got me through. I mean, there were times I was wondering, but we survived, and I survived, and I'm always looking for the next income stream that is worth messing with and that makes sense for me and my lifestyle.
Absolutely. Okay, Ron. Well, I believe that's about it. I don't think that they had any other questions.
All right. Do you have any?
Well, do you feel like are we in a good steady environment right now, would you say, with the housing market?
Well, some of our listeners aren't going to like my answer because what you're really asking me, when do I think there's going to be another recession? Um, I think the housing market is steady right now, and I think it'll stay that way for a while. I honestly don't know that it's going to grow much more than it is. In fact, I see a slowdown going on around the country as we speak. Not necessarily a big downturn, but certainly the rapid increase that we were experiencing has seemed to slow down, and I mean nationwide. Since I travel all over the country, I get to hear this all over the country. Um, I don't see any real evidence why we should have any kind of recession next year, and maybe not even the year after, but or this year or in the next year. But honestly, in my opinion, I think it all depends on who's in control of Congress.
Hmm.
Because if the liberals get their way, they're going to pass some really, really, really costly things that could put this economy in a big hurt. And frankly, you just can't give away everything to everybody and expect the economy to be in good shape when you do it. Golly, some of the things I hear they're trying to do, raise the taxes. I mean, I cannot believe that anybody thinks that raising taxes is the way to fix anything. I think you just take a look back a couple of years, and I think it should be crystal clear that that's the way to screw up everything, not the way to fix everything. So when we have our next recession, and we will, of course, I think it depends on who's in control of Congress, to be honest with you, and
Hmm.
and even who's president. So I'm going to leave that worthless political opinion at that.
Well, I hope the listeners got the message there.
Yeah, well, some will be pissed at me because of it, but no,
But
I
that's
guess
all
we
right.
can agree
You're
to disagree.
yeah, and you have no problem with that. Well,
Yeah.
I've got one final question for you, Ron. So, just locally
Mhm.
in Northeast Florida, we do see actually, because I live down in St. Johns County, so when I drive up, I do pass a lot of new construction, like thousands of homes are going up, in between St. Johns County, Duval County here in Northeast Florida. So, how does that affect the existing market? Because hard to believe where all of this influx of people will be coming from. I don't know if is the snowbirds that are moving down. What is going on exactly with this growth of new construction?
Well, first of all, people will always be moving to where there is sun, and we have plenty of that.
That is
And
true.
then we have a lot of other things working for us. But um, you see houses being built, but you don't see any real expensive houses being built because the math just doesn't make sense, except in some extremely narrow pockets of most any major city. It really has come down to math. When the recession hit, I had 5 subdivisions horizontally developed, meaning roads, water, sewer, electric were in, ready to build houses on. But then when the recession hit, well, that math just went to hell. For example, I could build a house for about $125 a square foot, but I could sell it for about $300 a square foot. So anybody can make money in that kind of a market. But when now the value, the exit strategy just totally stopped, same house would sell for $150 a foot. So I can't build for 100 and a quarter, sell it for 150. I'd wind up having to bring money to the closing table with all the other costs involved. So the math just stopped building for years and years and years. And builders had a really tough time there. Some of them went totally out of business. So the reason they're building now is because the values have gone up enough to allow them to have a little profit margin. But I can tell you right now, being on the inside track prior, they're not making that much money at it. You see new houses being built, it ain't like they're making a killing. Frankly, they're just making enough to keep the machine going and keep their people in business and survive. They're definitely not making anywhere near the kind of money that we're making in 2005 and 6 and 7 on these houses, but at least they're in business. So sometimes looking in from the outside in will fool you. Kind of like being in the restaurant business. I, as you know, own a restaurant. So, you can go there on a busy night and you say, man, this place is cool. They must be making a killing. But what about all the nights where it ain't so busy? And what about all that overhead that goes out because you don't see it because you're not the one writing the checks? Anyway, as long as there's a market for these houses, and there will be markets for these houses, as long as they keep them down where people can afford them. But all across this country, the houses that are having the issues right now are the houses that are getting out of that mid to moderate income range. And and like in our area, once you start getting above that $500,000 range, man, the sales really, really slow down.
Right.
That, of course, depends on what area you're in.
Right. Have you seen the Beach Walk area out off of 210? Those are $500,000 houses, and they're built on a man-made ocean. Is what they are.
No, I haven't.
It's amazing. Incredible.
But they're also being built right around a brand new, huge exterior mall as well. So
yes,
there's an attractor factor that's making that work.
That is true, the new town center there. Well, Ron, that's all I have for you today.
All right. Okay, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in. And remember, this podcast airs every Wednesday. All you got to do is go sign up. Tell them how to sign up, Debbie. It's free.
At www.thementorpodcast.com. And you can also listen on Google Play and Stitcher, as well as iTunes, and there's several other outlets as well.
Okay. All right. I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks for tuning in.
That's all for this edition of the Mentor Podcast. To connect with Ron and learn how you can attain financial freedom, as well as up-to-date strategies to grow and protect your wealth based on today's discussion, go to www.connectwiththementor.com.